Nice way to start this out tonight for a Thursday night. You're a part of the A Game. I'm Rob Akampora. The music you heard in the background was the band StickFigure. And just so happens that my guest is wearing the StickFigure logo from the album that it came from. To give him a proper introduction, not only is he had success on the baseball mound in much of the 90s, he is a Cy Young Award winner. He is a guy that also has a little bit of a side project. He did 4 albums back in the day as StickFigure. He also was involved in minor league baseball. We're going to get into all of it. Jack McDowell, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate the time.
All right. Good to be here, man.
Yeah. I get the feeling, and I've checked out some of your interviews, you don't get to talk music that often, which I'm glad we're going to dive into this because part of the reason that I got you on here, and I'm going to use photo 11, Ming, to get this on, you're going to recognize the 3 guys in this photo. Now, obviously, the guy in the middle, Jimmy Babjack, and I go back many years. He was been on my podcast last year. Dennis Deacon has not been on my podcast yet. That will be rectified. But the man on the right, now, you do have a very good connection with Mike Massaros. How did he become a part of StickFigure?
Well, here's what happened. He had heard us play on the Roy Firestone show.
Which was that on ESPN at that point?
Yeah. And we did an acoustic performance of one of the songs that we were going to release on our record coming up. And he was like, wow, that's a really cool song. And he got the Smithereens to ask us to be the opening band for them for that winter. We got to go for a few weeks and be their opening band, and it was super cool. And by the end of it, he said, hey, I'd love to join your stuff. And actually, it wasn't StickFigure at the time. It was the band View.
Okay, so you were under a different name at that point. Okay.
And Mike came and became our bass player. And then Michael Hamilton, who was their sound coordinator on tour also, became my guitar player and backup singer and help us do everything too. And so that's how we became StickFigure, became the new band. And that's what we did. It was super cool.
It was cool for me because when I got introduced to you guys, it was around 1995. I'm working for an alternative station here on the Jersey Shore called FM 106.3 WHDG. Smithereens were a big part of it. We played a lot of their music. So in comes the album with your logo that you have on your shirt right now from the first album. And then there's a sticker on there saying featuring Jack McDowell. And at first you go, it can't be the same Jack McDowell that we know from baseball. And then you find out it is the same Jack McDowell that we know from baseball. And the song that we played a little bit of was called My Prey. And I remember, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, you're my prey now. And forgive my bad singing, so please.
Yeah, well, that was the song that Mike had heard. And
that's it.
Super cool. And every time we would play, he'd say, hey, let's play My Prey, man. We got to go to that song. I love that thing. He loved the bass. He loved the parts too.
And if I remember correctly, at that point, Mike living in the Chicago area at that point too, or was he not? Because I know at one point he total Jersey guy, but he moved away for a while.
Yeah, and I think he was out in California at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
A little bit of time in Chicago, but then they're out in California.
So let's go back even further. What prompted you to get the passion for music? Was there a moment? Was it a band? Was it a song? What did it for you when you were younger? Well,
I really loved music. And my sister, who's 10 years older than me, when I was growing up, she became working in different music places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she worked at MCA and worked at different places. So we got to hear all these really cool records before they even got released, and record companies, and so that was really cool. Plus, my brothers were older, and they always liked playing the Beatles and Jethro Tull and all that growing up.
Sure.
And I like that, so I started playing guitar. I think I took 2 lessons when I was 7, and then after that, when I knew all the basics, I just kind of taught myself the rest by listening to music. One of my fun things I used to do was to write the lyrics down because I really thought the lyrics were important to songs, not just the beat and the music. I really liked what the music was being talked about and what you were doing with all that. So that's what got me fired up to do it. But what got me into writing my own songs was when I signed with the White Sox. I signed it as a junior at Stanford. And I was a quarter ahead, so I only had 2 quarters to finish up my Stanford degree.
Mhm.
So after being up in September in 1987, I went right back to school. Well,
Okay.
you go no practice.
Mhm.
I'm just going to school. So now I'm just sitting there for hours, after my classes are done, going, what am I doing now? I don't even know what to do. So I brought
Mhm.
my guitar up and started playing songs and started writing songs. And that's where the band View started. I started a few songs with that.
It's interesting how it came along, and I didn't know about the connections with your family with an MCA record. So you've understood the industry way before you even got into music, which had to help because you were promoting these albums on your own. You didn't have a major label behind you. You were releasing them and kind of just, barnstorming where you could get airplay, you got airplay, where you could play, you could play. It became sort of a fun outlet for you.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool, but it also, yeah, you didn't get the big outlets to be
Right.
paying money to the record to the radio stations to play all your records. So didn't get a ton of airplay, but occasionally stuff would pop up here and there, and that was kind of cool.
And if I can get photo number 6 up here, Ming, these are the 4 album or CD covers from StickFigure. Jack, I know you posted on social media that you have some of these CDs still available. So if somebody wanted to, learn more about StickFigure, they can reach out to you and potentially get a copy. And I would think you would take the time to maybe give them an autograph while you're at it.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, look up StickFigure because there's a band that stole our band name.
I was about to ask you that question. I was finding out there's a reggae band that came out, I think, within the last 10 years that decided to call themselves StickFigure. How does that happen? Because I would think you went through the rights to try to be like, hey, look, this is our logo. We're copyrighting this. How do they get to handle that and grab hold of a name?
It's kind of frustrating because when they first started up,
Mm-hmm.
people would call me and say, "Hey, you guys are playing a show here and there." Oh, I said, wait, what are you talking about?
Right.
No, StickFigure's playing here and there. That's where I first learned about the guys stealing our band name. And I'm going, how can you be a good artist when you can't even come up with your own band name?
Right.
Hey, I mean, that's the cool stuff about it. You want to come up with good stuff,
yes,
and fun stuff.
And that's gotta hurt too. Because you developed this thing over a span of 10 plus years, 4 albums released, and then all of a sudden it's like you think to yourself, hey, maybe we'll go out again, we'll do some shows, and then all of a sudden you turn your back and go, wait a minute, how are they? How? You get the gist.
Yeah.
Ugh. I'm sorry about that. I can sense the frustration and well-deserved frustration, I might add.
Yeah. I get, the way that works, maybe I should just change our band name to the Beatles.
Ooh. Well, copyright. Well, hold it. On that logic, it would work.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Jack McDowell's here on the A Game. The funny thing is, when I posted this on social media, I got a lot of great responses from people. I'm going to start with a couple right now, since we're talking about your band. Let me go to photo number 4. This is from Mick Schott, who's out in California, saying, and the Smithereens had responded on the link that I had posted on social media. So Mick was saying, the Smithereens, we got to meet Jack when they played at the Warfield in San Francisco. Nice guy, and the band rocked. And it follows up with another post, and this comes from number 5, Ming. Jules Buke of Redlands area, California, saw them at the Warfield as well. They threw teddy bears to the audience.
Yeah.
Please elaborate on this teddy bear thing that was going on here.
Oh, we did it. Well, the things where you put the quarter in and then the thing comes down and grabs them.
Oh, the crane, of course.
We came across one of those that grabbed everyone.
Oh no.
So we just flew all of our money in there and took 20 or 30 of them with us and said, all right, when we get out there after the second song or third song, we're just going to toss them out to the crowd. It'll be super fun. And we ended up doing that. Yeah.
That's great. That's a great story. And thanks to both Mick and Jules for chiming in on social media. There is another one I got to get into. This kind of takes into the music part of it, plus also some of the people you got to rub elbows with. Number 2, from Joe McGowan, who's in Winnetka, Illinois. He goes, please ask Jack about the circumstances around the barroom brawl with Eddie in Chicago. I mean, if you don't want to elaborate on it respectfully, you don't have to, but it was one of those things that I remember when it came out in the news, and it was one of those, well, first off, he's friends with Eddie Vedder. How cool is that? But the incident itself, I mean, there was like 3 or 4 different versions of the story that when I was looking back on social media, I'm like, oh, well, there's this version. If you want to clarify, please do.
Well, first of all, it wasn't Chicago, it was New Orleans.
Okay, thank you.
I was in Chicago, and Eddie they were recording, I think theirs was a second record.
Okay.
They're recording the second record down there in New Orleans, and he was like, hey, we have a show coming up too. You should come down and hang out for a while. So I was like, all right, I've never been down to New Orleans. Might as well. It's cool. So we went down there. After the show, we went out, went to a bar, and there was some guy that recognized Eddie and just came up to him and just started getting in his face and telling him he was such a loser and you're such a piece of crap and this, that. And we were going, wait, what is going on?
Right.
And he kept coming out. We're like, hey, just stay away. Just come on. And the guy just kept going after him. So finally, we just said, hey, let's get out of here. We had, the opening band that was there. They were from Chicago. And we were like, let's go somewhere else. Let's get out of here. So we leave. And this guy sprints out and comes and goes after Eddie.
Oh, Jesus.
Starts like an outdoor fight. And one of the guys that worked at that bar snuck up behind me and cheap shotted me behind. Oh, jeez. He ended up going to jail because he was out. He had already been busted on stuff like that before.
Terrific.
So it was crazy. It was like, come on, man. What? We're just out here having fun, and you're just in his face because you don't like his music or you didn't like something that he said or who knows, It was really weird.
When you look at some of the musical times that you had, obviously becoming friends with Eddie Vedder, I mean, was that the craziest incident that you ever dealt with during that time?
Well, that was interesting. There's another really cool, funny Pearl Jam. It wasn't really an incident, but it was.
Oh, yeah, but I'd like to hear about it.
We became friends because both of our ex-wives were roommates at home. And so when I met my ex-wife and we started hanging out, she's like, oh, you do music too? I got a friend that does music too. And it was before Pearl Jam.
Right.
And so it was like we met like right as it was starting up with Pearl Jam. And here was one of the funny things. We were doing a tour. We were supposed to play in New York, an acoustic show. And we walk up and they're like, oh, you're not playing today. There's another band coming in. And they're releasing the record. And so they're playing it. And we're like, wait, what? What do you mean? And all of a sudden, here comes Pearl Jam. I'm like, dudes, what's going on? How's it going? It's cool. So we got to see them play.
And unfortunately, stuff like that does happen on occasion.
We hadn't talked. We didn't know. They didn't know they were coming to take us away, and we didn't know they would play. Oh,
man. I mean, I've heard on occasion, like I was saying, that it does happen from time to time where it's this last minute, you've been taken off the show, but it's still, that's cold-hearted when it happens, and especially when, like you said, you're kind of getting psyched up for all that, and you're like, wait, what? Could you please tell me this with 30 seconds notice, please?
We traveled to New York with the band, and all of a sudden, no, you're not playing a show. So that's kind of a bummer.
And kind of a bummer. It does make for a great story.
Yeah.
Jack McDowell is here on the A Game. Okay. From the music side to the baseball side. And it like I look behind you, there's a guitar, there's a bunch of baseballs behind you. It's amazing. It's the interesting dichotomy of you. You're passionate about music. You had this incredible career that when it started, it must have seemed like this is easy. I just won 3 of my first 4 starts. My ERA is under 2. I'm 21 years old. Life is really good. But it wasn't as easy as it seemed to be because it took a few more years before it really became, you had the dominant stretch between 91 and 95.
Well, yeah, once the team became a little bit better, that helped.
That can't be easy. I mean, when you're kind of going out there, giving your all, and you're trying to build a culture of winning. And Chicago was trying to get there, and it finally did get there while you were there. I mean, between 91 and 93, you're averaging 20 wins a year. I mean, not many pitchers can say that. And you were definitely a big part of that success when it was starting to happen.
Oh, yeah. We were growing from a young team, being put together, and then, getting better. And go back and look, we were in the American League West, and we had to fight the 90s A's.
Which is not easy, yeah.
the big steroid dudes, and they were really killing everybody.
True. During that time, when you won the Cy Young in 93, I was looking back and I realized you aced out Randy Johnson in one of his 300 strikeout seasons. When you were sitting there and knowing that, okay, I know I'm in the mix for the Cy Young, was there a part of you that goes, I don't know if I'm going to get it? Because you were the runner-up the year before. So you'd been through this process. Take me what's going through your mind at this point, right before they're about to announce the award.
Well, what you're going to get, just kind of like how everybody is watching the way the Hall of Fame works. You never know who's going to get in or who's getting voted for by the writers.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to, and I look, oh, the year before I was runner-up.
Yep.
Dennis Eckersley, yeah, he had a great season, but he threw 80 innings, and I threw 2.
Roughly, yeah.
And they gave him MVP also, with Mark McGwire hitting over 300 and having 50 home runs. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. McGwire beat the other team for those 8 innings and just handed you your free save. So wait a minute. See, I've never been a huge fan of closers being.
I'm getting that impression, Jack.
Yeah, because, let's look at it. Let's look at the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
Being a closer, a 9th inning only closer,
mm-hmm.
is like being a pinch hitter, but you're only allowed to hit if there's a runner on third with less than 2 outs. So you put the ball in play, hey, you got your job done. You really have to be terrible not to get your stat. And so that's why it's kind of like, whatever,
Well, I'm going to take a tangent because as you're talking about relievers, as somebody who, has been around long enough that I can remember the 70s and remember relievers like Gossage and Lyle, who were guys that would give you 6 to 9 outs consistently.
Oh, yeah.
Guys that would throw 120, 150 innings even.
Yeah, they came in. Think about Mike Marshall with the 200 innings at one time.
Oh, God, 108 games that season. That's sick.
And a guy like Gossage, it's 7th inning and we're getting in a little trouble. He's going to come in and stop it and then finish out the game.
Yeah.
Well, that is good work. That is not just, you don't get to come in and be a closer unless we're ahead and you just need 3 outs to get your stat.
And what's interesting is that when we went from the 70s to look at some of these guys, and I'm glad you bring up somebody like Mike Marshall, which I think it's a record that'll never be broken, 200 plus relief innings, over 100 appearances in one season. Forget about it. For that alone,
started to throw 200 now.
Yeah, God. But then there was that transition. I think, in my opinion, Suter was the beginning of the transition. When Bruce had the 1 pitch, and he was basically going, get 3 outs. Okay, now we're going from the 6 to 9 out reliever to the 3 out reliever, and the game sort of changes. And you're on the tail end of that transition. Because when you think about it, you were the guy, when I looked at your career stats, you averaged 7 innings. 7 innings every time you took a start. In baseball today, who's going 7 innings consistently? I don't think and you can check this out if you're a baseball fan, I don't think anybody averaged 7 innings to start this past season at all.
Yeah, it's not, they're not allowing starters to do anything anymore.
Right.
Well, you want me to explain to you my thought on that?
You know what? I would love to, as somebody who has thrown so many innings, as somebody who is a guy that would take the ball and be like, more than likely, and this is a stat I love to throw out about Jack here, that in his prime between 91 and 95, he completed 1 out of every 3 games. That should tell you 1/3 of his starts, he's completing the game. So somebody who has completed as many games as you definitely have a theory. Please elaborate.
Well, here's the thing. They start the pitch count, and we're going to drop down the innings, supposedly to slow down injuries. Well, what's actually happening? Come on, it's all about metrics, guys. How about we measure that? There's way more injuries now. And my thought on it is this. If you've ever pitched before, you can understand this. There are games when you can go out and throw 150 pitches, but you're in motion good. Everything's good. You're pitching good. Everything's smooth. You don't have any weird stuff going on. And the next day you wake up and you're like, wow, I could go play right field and host somebody from right field because my arm feels great today. Then there's sometimes when you throw a couple innings, maybe on a visitor's mound that's a little bit different than yours, or it's messed up a little bit, and you wake up the next day, you only throw a couple innings, and you wake up and you're like, wow, I was a little off balance there, and you're sore as heck. But what's happening nowadays is you're not allowed to build up when you're going smooth and good to be able to withstand those type of things, because everyone just goes to the same pitch count every time, no matter what, because it's only a 5-inning, 6-inning thing, Yeah. But not allowing them to build up their endurance to be able to take the starts that they're a little bit off in. And kind of makes sense.
It does.
But no one cares about that. No one they're still going lower and lower and lower with all the pitch counts and the innings, but the injuries are not decreasing, they're increasing. So what are we doing?
Well, let me ask you this, as somebody who just recently was managing, and if I can get a photo of 10 Ming, because I want to give props to the team you were just doing. I love their logo, by the way. The Burlington Sock Puppets, part of the revamped Appalachian League, which was now a summer league, which is giving these college players a chance to develop their craft. Now, as a manager, knowing that's how you feel, but also knowing that you may have to answer to other people, I mean, are you trying to incorporate this theory of, hey, we got to build arm strength. We got to try to get them to throw as many innings, and if they're getting a little trouble, let them work out of trouble. Let's see how far they can go.
Well, I mean, that part of everything is up to the individual players.
Okay.
How hard they want to work to build up strength and all that. I mean, the stuff that we ended up having to teach the college kids over the summer was unreal. Because everything that is going on in today's games is all this indoor facility work.
Right.
And it's not the real game of baseball. So I saw a ton, just about every one of our pitchers, ground ball to the second base, first baseman, not even getting over to cover. Ooh. Ball hit to the outfield, not backing up bases. I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here? The things that we had to teach are similar to the things that I have to teach kids in Little League.
Wow.
Because it's just no one's teaching the game anymore. It's all just metrics. Get in. All you need to worry about as a pitcher is your velocity and your spin rate. No, once the ball's put in play, you're a defender. Back up a face, get over, do what you need to do. That stops runs. That stops extra bases. That stops runs from scoring. That's part of baseball. But it's not being taught to kids.
Well, Jack, I want to defend your point in a different way, because the one thing I've noticed in Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, and all levels of baseball, the art of the bunt has become a forgotten tool completely. It seems like nobody knows how to bunt. We're looking at players who are making millions upon millions. It's either they refuse to bunt when the situation comes, or they actually don't know how to bunt. And it just seems to me they look lost, which makes me wonder, and it defends your point perfectly. If they're not learning the fundamentals, how are they supposed to get to the next level?
Well, the great thing is this year, finally, was the first year that a handful of guys started taking advantage of the stupid shifts. Just bunt over there. You don't even need to bunt good. You got the whole side of the infield just to go out.
Yeah.
I don't know. The other thing is, no one plays pepper anymore. We used to play pepper all the time.
Yes.
We have bat control and be able to do stuff. I feel like I could go up there and hit, and if they had a shift on me, just go, okay, I'm just swinging late, and then hit a cruddy ground ball the opposite field. Boom. I don't care what my exit velocity is. I want my end result to be something.
Right. The name of the game is score as many runs as you can, beat the other team. If it means you can take a double by going down the third baseline, take the double.
Yeah, just get on base. And, and the whole thing, we're not stealing bases anymore because the metrics say you have to be at 80%. No, you don't. You have to know the individual situation of the game. Who's hitting, how he's doing. Do I need to try to steal to get in there this night? The best catchers, are 50-50. So what are we talking about that you have to be at 80% or else it's a bad steal?
You bring an incredible point to the dance. As somebody who pitched in the 90s, you had guys like Vince Coleman who were stealing 80, 90 bases, and that's what their role was, and that's how they were getting paid their money. And it was about saying, hey, look, I'm going to challenge the catcher. How many of these catchers are actually going to gun me down 1 out of every 2? Maybe the average catcher 1 out of 3. So the odds are in your favor that 2 times out of every 3, you're going to take that base, get the guy into scoring position. So my question becomes, will the art of the stolen base, in your opinion, potentially come back, or because of the metrics, it's just going to be a dying art? And if somebody steals 30 bases, you're going to win the title.
Well, it depends whether the owners are going to open up their ears and be smart, or if they keep going down this road that is absolutely ridiculous, because they're letting all these guys run all this stuff through pre-calculated stuff. And
right.
Baseball is not a game that can be predetermined at all. It cannot be predetermined. You don't know. You have this pitcher go out there and, hey, I might be on today.
Right.
I might be on today. You don't know that.
It's true.
You can have a hitter up there and he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm hitting 340 right now. But guess what? If I make a couple great pitches, he ain't hitting 340.
Right.
You can't predetermine what's going to happen. It's pitch to pitch adjustment throughout the game, which wins and loses games. You can have ideas on metrics. Okay, hey, this, and this, but you can't predetermine everything. And the great thing is it's being exposed more and more, and the fans are hating it, and the players, who all hate it,
right,
come out and say it. I mean, no hitter in the World Series and you're out after 5 innings.
Yeah.
I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Very. I thought the whole idea of having the extra hitter would be that they would pitch longer. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, we had his pitch count set. Yeah. No, he was going to give up 7 runs the next inning. How he hadn't even given up a hit yet.
When you were saying just before, it's a pitch by pitch thing. As a pitcher, that was your thing. I would remember you're a guy that, not afraid to challenge the hitter. You were not afraid to go inside. You also were there going, I'm here for the long run. So it's like, all right, you may have gotten me the first time, but I learned something from the first time you faced me. I'm going to make good on it the second time, even the third time through the order. Now I take it to 2022, where pitchers are like, it's purposely being taken out because they're saying that the stats say that the third time through the order, they're not as effective. So, I mean, obviously, theoretically, it's not pitch by pitch now, but when you did it, it clearly was this pitch by pitch, 1 setting up 2, 2 setting up 3, and so on and so on.
The hitters had to do the same thing. If you're a hitter, you had to respond to what he just did, and what his good pitches are in that individual game.
Right.
And it's interesting. When I was managing with the Dodgers, first year it was all the old school guys running the whole organization, and then they changed it over. And the year that they changed it over, and I looked up all the metrics stuff just because I knew if I don't know about this stuff, we'll be gone. They fired us all anyway. They fired like 95% of every coach throughout the minor leagues there.
Right.
Donnie left and Mattingly left. And he left because they came in and they were going to dictate everything and told him, you don't even get to make the lineup. So I was like, okay. So that second year, I asked them, I said, okay, you're doing all these shifts now, and you're doing all this stuff. You have the 2 best pitchers in the game at the time. They had Greinke and Kershaw. And I said, are you doing all this? Do you talk to them and you say, how do you go about getting this guy out? What are you going to do? And that's how we're going to do our defensive stuff. They go, no, we're setting it up and telling them you have to do this to get him out. And I said, well, then you're wasting great pitchers, because great pitchers make adjustments.
Yes.
You can't force them to do something that maybe there are certain innings when you don't have a feel for your slider or curve. Right. And so you go, okay, well, you know what? I can throw my change up right here and get him, because I'm feeling good with that.
Right.
But I can't because we have a shift and he'll hit it over here and that's not supposed to happen. So I have to do something that I'm not supposed to, I don't feel good doing, but I could get him out if they just let me get him out. And they don't understand the baseball stuff at all.
Interesting stuff from Jack McDowell here. I'm loving this, by the way. Thank you again for coming on the A Game. Before I get to random shots, there's one thing I do got to want to bring up because I'm here in Jersey. Obviously, lots of Yankee fans around here. That 95 season, you led the team in wins. The interesting part of it is I'm going to bring up the middle finger incident, but I'm going to defend you on one level. Actually, I'll make it 2 levels. 1, when you met the press in the clubhouse afterwards. You were very magnanimous. You were very much humble. And you were just more like, hey, look, I'm really sorry this happened. It's a little embarrassing. You handled yourself incredibly well. And then afterwards, 9-4, ERA under 3 the rest of the season. And I was doing some digging. Were you actually hurt at one point during that season with the Yankees?
At the end, yeah. My last 2 starts prior to me missing a couple starts before the playoffs, I had torn my lat in one game, and then through another game. It's interesting. The game that I did it in was one of the funniest games of my career, and it was against the Indians. And I always laugh and I say, I did a weird game that doesn't happen as much as perfect games do. Now, guess what it is? And I always joke with people about it, but it's true.
Okay.
I threw a shutout with not a single assist. When have you ever heard that?
I've never heard of that. I mean,
so a complete game shutout with not a single assist.
Everything was
all strikeouts, pop-ups, fly balls, or ground balls to Donnie.
That's amazing.
And in that game is when the tear became bad. And the next game, I went second inning. I'm like, oh my God, this is killing me. It was really hurting. And so I had to go out, and I didn't even pick up a baseball until we went to Seattle the day before. And Buck says, how you feeling? I said, I'm going. Let's go. So I mean, I was in a ton of pain, throwing with a torn lat, and we did what we could do.
I read somewhere that you have been very praising of that time with the Yankees, that you called it a really, really good experience, even despite the little hiccup. I mean, what made the 95 Yankees? I mean, it was a return to the playoff year. And that was such an important part of the springboard before everything went down. So the 95 Yankees deserve a lot more respect than they probably get, because it's that forgetful year, because the next year they go on to win the World Series. But 95 is sort of here's the bridge to where we were getting to.
Yeah, well, the best clubhouse that we've ever had. We just were all together, good guys, nobody arguing with each other, nobody fighting, no one getting frustrated with people. It was just a really good clubhouse. And once again, that's unmeasurable to the metrics guys. So it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter who you bring into the clubhouse anymore. Well, if his numbers are this, but guess what? If it's a guy that, isn't getting along with some other guys, then it ain't going to work out.
I'm going to defend your point, because as a Mets fan, I looked at this past season. There was a definite rift between Lindor and McNeil. And here's the double play comment. If they're not getting along, how are they going to work and gel together on the field? And then you look at the whole Baez thumbs down situation, which I think created more turmoil in the clubhouse. And you, as somebody, you have an understanding of what a good clubhouse is, as you said, and you understand what it's like to deal with controversy in New York. If you could give advice to some of these people and handling this, what do you do? What would you tell them?
Well, a lot of it depends on your manager and him bringing everybody together. Mm-hmm. But some guys just don't get along. That's just part of the deal sometimes. And there's nothing you can really do about that. But if you're running the team, you have to know that in what's going on and make the decisions on what to do to change it up and fix it, because that really means a lot when you're all out there pulling for the same thing together and pulling for each other and being fired up about all the other guys on your team. And I look back at that now and I'm like, I left, I became a free agent after 95, and they fired Buck. I really liked him. Mm-hmm. And they had not hired anybody. I didn't know who they were going to hire. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know what this is going to turn into. And there were only 2 offers out there, because it was, the owners controlling everything, of course. Mm-hmm. So I had to make a quick decision, and went with the Indians, because then I could, I said, okay, at least I'm with the Indians and I can stick it back to the White Sox, who got rid of me, and beat them. So that's why I made that move. But then making that move and then watching what the Yankees did after that, I missed a lot of rings.
You didn't get the rings. I'm sorry about that. I know you're proud of that Cy Young, but you're a guy who is about getting the win. So obviously the ring as much as the Cy Young means something to you, that ring probably means a little bit more if you could have gotten it.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone asks me, what's the most greatest thing of your career? And I say national championship at Stanford.
That says a lot. Yeah.
And I always say this. I don't care if you win MVP, this and that. You can always have a better individual season.
Mm-hmm.
If I threw 27 straight perfect games, I still could have been better because I'll bet you I threw balls. I could have thrown all strikes.
Okay.
Better season. So you can always be better individually. But the only thing you can do in sports where you accomplish the top thing you can accomplish is a championship.
Right.
You get done, hey, we just won it. Nothing else to do. We couldn't have done anything better as a team. And so that is what you kind of focus on as a team in sports, is winning championships. That's the only thing that matters. That's the same thing that's ridiculous about strikeouts. Strikeouts are overrated.
You were not, and that's funny. You were not considered a strikeout, but you were a guy who never struck out 200 batters. But yet, you were the guy who was like you didn't seem to focus in on that, is the best way of putting it. You were, like you were saying, you were about, I want to go 9. I want the win. I want the team to succeed. Bottom line, that's it. Done.
Try to get guys out.
Yeah. However you can get them out.
And the only thing, it's the same thing, the metrics guys aren't measuring this. They just care about all these strikeouts. Strikeouts only matter in situations where if a guy puts the ball in play at all, ground ball and grounds out with a guy on third, less than 2 out, the run scores. That's an important strikeout. Those are the only ones that matter. You strike a guy out with nobody on, who cares? I don't care if he hits a 390-foot fly ball. You're out, dude. Have fun. It doesn't matter. It's called end results.
Hanging out with Jack McDowell here on the A Game. Time for Random Shots. This is the segment where I just come up with random stuff based on Jack's social media and getting to know him. Came up with some questions. I always start with a shot. Thank you, Redemption Bourbon. So I say cheers to you, Jack, and let's get into this round. Mother's milk. It's a combination of music and sports. Shouldn't be a surprise to you. I read once, you said this in an interview, if I could have one band that would want to perform before a game, you picked one of the bands. Obviously, one was Pearl Jam. But you also picked a band I love, The Replacements. Who I think awesome alternative band. Give me 2 or 3 of your favorite songs by The Replacements.
Oh, gosh, all of them. One record, Ape of the Kings. Everyone's like going, wait a minute, Ape of the Kings, where does that come from and what does that mean? That was my tip of the hat to Westerberg.
I did not know that.
Look, if you listen to his lyrics, I said
Yes.
I'm a lyrics guy, he likes to turn around phrases. He'll turn around phrases really coolly, just like that. And I said, I'm going to tip my hat to him. King of the Apes? No, Ape of the Kings. And that was him. I don't even know if he knows that.
No, well, I hope he finds that out. That's great. Little bit of a stat. You're probably going to guess this right, but who or what has more complete games? Your career total or the total in the major leagues in 2017?
Oh, probably mine because they don't let anybody finish anymore.
To defend your point, you had 62. Major League Baseball had 59, and since 2017, that number continues to go down and down and down. I know you're not surprised. I figure it was just a fun stat to throw in there.
Continue to go up and up and up. That.
And by the way, to defend his point even further, Jack is one of only 2 pitchers in the last 30 years to have had 15 complete games in a season. The only other pitcher, Kurt Schilling. That was back in 1998. Do the math. Random Shots with Jack McDowell. I got a great one here. Give me number 1. This is from Brendan Tobin in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. He goes, I sat next to the bullpen in Baltimore, and Jack came in to warm up a little bit. The sound of the ball hitting the glove made my palm hurt. I've played catcher since my teens and been around a lot of pro games, but I've never heard a ball hit a glove like that. Now, you even said you're not a strikeouts guy, but you obviously had velocity. I mean, did that mean anything to you? Because I think, we go back to what you're saying before. You're about the win. You're about getting it done. So were you obsessed with trying to go 96, 97, or as fast as you could? Or was it just more like, no, I want to keep the hitters off balance. I'm going to go inside, outside, and just,
No, it's more about pitching. I just did, I didn't try to create more velocity. I just threw whatever was coming out of my body.
Right.
Whatever, here we go. And attack the strike zone. Attack the strike zone. They get themselves out. You don't need to go in there and try to get them to swing and miss at everything. Here, go ahead. Just hit this one terribly. That's what it was. Here, pound, 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 pound. And if you go back and look, the American League strike zone versus the National League strike zone during my time was ridiculous. It was we got so frustrated watching TBS and watching Braves games and them getting those calls, and we're throwing balls in the middle, and they're like, ball, no, that was belt high too high, that was knee high too low. Oh, wait a minute.
And I would think it was more difficult because back then it was like you pretty much had to keep your composure, where I think today the umpires do give a little more leeway to the reaction of the pitcher, where if you did it back in the 90s, it would have been like, oh, he could have ejected you, you could have gotten fined. Am I right?
Well, yeah, actually, when they changed that strike zone in 90, they stopped the real strike zone up here, which they're getting back to now.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they said, no, we're going to belt high. Well, all of a sudden, our catchers are catching the ball right here, right where you should, and it's too high because the guy's down like this, and it was right at his belt. It's too high. Carlton Fisk got thrown out of 2 games during that time.
Right.
He turned around like, what are you doing? It's perfect pitch. I was out there going, well, yeah, Pudge, but the last 20 I've thrown there are balls, so now I understand it. So you do what you got to do.
Random shots with Jack McDowell. Ming, give me photo number 3. This is from Jim Fairfield. He's in Stevens Point, Michigan. Once the White Sox plane was in trouble and in danger of crashing. Everyone was freaking out. Blackjack jumps up, and says that, reminds me, I wrote a new song called Going Down. What a nut. True story. All right. Is this really true?
It is true. It is true. Well, we wrote it after that. And it wasn't a full song. It was just kind of like a funny thing.
Right.
That we did. And I would take my acoustic guitar on the plane and play in the back a little bit every once in a while. And so we would do that. But yeah, that was to talk about a crazy plane incident. Probably not a lot of people know about this, but we're flying from Seattle after a 7:00 night game. So it's like, 1:00 by the time we're flying out. So half the team's asleep. In the back, I'm sitting back there with Scott Rudinsky and, maybe playing a little music. I think Robin Ventura was awake too. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. We're like, whoa, what was that? Look out the window. And the wing is on fire.
Oh!
The wing's on fire because the engine's on fire. And I'm looking out there going, okay, I know I've taken a lot of flights. Something's not right here. And we get one of the flight attendants, so we bring her back. We're like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? Look. She goes, oh, don't worry. And she closes the window and makes her way super fast back to the pilot. Did they not know that their wing was on fire? Anyway, everyone was freaking out. We had to land in Milwaukee just so we didn't die.
Yeah, thank God. Oh my God, what a story.
Oh, you hear my doggy barking?
I do hear you doggy barking.
Man,
yeah. Give this man some camera time. Give this dog some.
Papa.
Come on up.
Oh, she's leaving now. What's the matter?
Another random shot. And this is obviously, since we called you Blackjack, it is your nickname, but it was Ken Hawk Harrelson. God love him. Great announcer for the Chicago White Sox. Gave you that nickname. But I heard the story that you actually didn't know at one point that he was using this on the air. Is that true?
Well, yeah, I had no idea. How are we supposed to know that he's using it on the air when you're on the field?
Oh, good point. But I thought maybe word of mouth would have trickled down at some point.
Well, how I found out was a really funny story, too. We were in Minnesota, and we're stretching. So the team's stretching in front of the first base dugout. Minnesota, the Twins get done with hitting and everyone comes off the field. And Kirby Puckett, who I always said hi to, we always talked back and forth. And
Yeah.
he walked up. He goes, "Hey, Blackjack, what's going on, man?" And I was like, "Hey, Puck, what's up, man?" And I turned and said, "What did he just call me?" I told that to Robin Ventura. "What did he just call me, Blackjack?" I was like, "What is that?" And Robin goes, "I think I heard someone say that Hawk's calling you that now." I was like, "Okay, now I know." I was like, I didn't know if Kirby made it up or not.
That's a great start. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've never met Hawk Harrelson, but just having heard him as an announcer and having some of the many catchphrases that he had, it doesn't surprise me he would come up with that for you.
Yeah. He got nicknames for a lot of people. Now, he did the big hurt for Frank, so he did it all.
Yeah, he really did. God rest his soul. Two more questions on random shots. Pete Santiago, who just made a comment on Facebook, is asking about Buck Showalter. And I was going to ask about this. How do you think Buck is going to do as the new manager of the New York Mets since you were played under him for a year?
Well, I hope he does well. And it's interesting because one of the things I'm going to do is probably watch how the season goes, watch how they handle him, whether they're going to force him to do all the metric stuff or whether they're going to let him be a real manager, guy. And if they allow him to be a real manager, man, I'm going to get a hold of him and see if I can't come there. Because I would blow my head off in a metrics area being dictated as to what to do and how to tell people to do stuff rather than being able to use my baseball knowledge. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I contact Don Mattingly all the time and say, "Are you guys moving? What's going on? Peter doing? Is he forcing the metric stuff?" "Yes, he's forcing the metric stuff." "All right, well, yeah, I don't know, And the fact that, they let Barry Bonds come in there for 1 year to be the hitting coach and then got rid of him. I'm like, wow, that would be similar. You're, the guys of our generation who actually are teaching real baseball stuff would be frustrating to the metrics dudes.
Well, this raises a question I'm just thinking off the top of my head after just talking to you right now. Obviously, you're knowledgeable of the game. You have been a coach. You've been a manager. Why hasn't somebody approached you about being an analyst? Because some of this stuff is so fascinating that putting you in a booth, probably you would shed some light into things that a lot of, and I'm not dissing a lot of the analysts. Some of them are outstanding. Some of them they could go a little bit more. You bring an insight to this that not everybody does. Is that something you've ever thought about doing?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I don't know what my next move's going to be. Coaching, I've coached from T-ball through pro ball.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, coaching kids for numbers of years really helps. If I just would have been just a professional coach after my professional years, I would be a different dude than I am of actually learning how the game progresses and what needs to be taught, what are the things you need to really focus on and really be important that you need to take these next levels. So it's been really cool. So it's still fun to be coaching baseball, definitely.
I leave you with one last question. It is a music-related question, and I would think as somebody who is a fan of all kinds of music, today is February 3rd. In music history, what is today?
I don't know. Oh, is it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I'll put it simply.
They're people.
Now, I'll put it simply. The day the music died. Richie Valens.
Right.
Yep. The Plane and the whole bit. I figured you might know that one. But again, I love the backdrop. I love the time I got to spend with you. Jack, it's fascinating to get your feel on all this stuff, and you make some incredible points. So thank you for giving the time. I also want to put Photo 6 up one more time. If you're interested in Jack's music, he does have the CDs available on all photos releases from StickFigure. If you're interested, send him a message through Facebook. You can follow him on Facebook, send him a message, and don't be surprised if he's signing the CD. And I hope you get some response on that. There's some really good music on there.
Yeah, it's cool. And all the people are buying the CDs now, I always want to know what their favorite songs are. So maybe I can put together one at the end that's like the favorite song CDs and all that. Very
cool. Jack, I hope our paths cross again. Thank you so much for the time tonight. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, man. That's the A game for this week. We'll do it again next week. And I thought maybe we were going to get the dog on right before we got him, but we can't. Take care of yourself, Jack. Thanks again. Take care.